Hello viewers, here's a Heat Wave ceramic heater. This is model H-500, 1500 watts, 5200 BTU. Manufactured for Galaxus, whatever that is, and sadly made in China. Plan to use this unit in the bathroom this year because it has a filter on it, and everything in the bathroom, because of the moisture, seems to collect dust like you would not believe. So I'm hoping maybe having a filter on there will save me some hassle of these heaters getting full of dust. So this does work. I'm pretty sure I've done an initial checkout on this. I used it a little bit last year down here in the shop, but it's never been formally serviced since I've got it, so it's time to go ahead and do that. Now, I've never been inside one of these little units before. I've seen these under quite a few different brands. I imagine they're probably all similar, or if not exactly the same, but let's get started. Looks like we have 4 screws on the back. Let's see what that releases. I'm kind of learning as we go along here, so there's the potential for me to make an error. It seems to be releasing the whole unit here, the fan unit. Oh, I guess the whole thing's going to come out. Huh, I wasn't expecting that. But that's that works. It's a very nice, serviceable design. So let's see how we can get the fan off. It looks like, let's remove the heating element first. Here, if we undo these screws, which were clearly designed to be able to be undone, which is very nice, I think this will remove the heat element from the fan. And we do have some washers here, so we'll try not to lose those. Okay, and now the heating element is removed. Is that a metal fan? No, it's plastic. It's actually pretty clean, but the fan's got a little bit of dust and it could have used some oil. Not spinning too freely. So now we'll remove these 4 screws on the back, and that should release the fan from this back piece. these screws are the same size as the other ones. And there we go. The fan is released. So I have to say that is a really good design. It's compact, it's easy to maintain. You take it apart in, it's only been probably 5 minutes. And I believe one last step to get the motor out is just going to be to remove these 2 screws. I've seen some of these at the Habitat since I got this one, and they want $20 for it. I paid $10 for this one. I just can't fathom spending $20 on something I really don't need. But if I come across another one of these kind of heaters at a decent price, I'm definitely going to get it because I really like this design. Although there is some plastic here which I don't particularly like, but what are you going to do? And this should unhook from here and give me a little bit more slack. Not too much slack to work with here, but it is enough to be able to service the motor. Okay, the first thing I'm seeing I don't like is it has one of those stupid things on the motor, on the shaft there. One of those, I don't even know what they're called, they're just dumb. And they're usually not reusable, and they're hard to get off. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to pull this off the best I can, and if it gets damaged, oh well, I don't really care. It's a dumb component to begin with. Let's try to just pry it off with a non-prying tool. There we go. Oh, it's actually Loctited on there. What in the world? To my surprise, it didn't break. Can't say I've seen too many heaters with the fans Loctited onto the shaft. Hopefully I can get this off. It's not budging yet. Alright, well I'm rejecting a little bit of my like for this design because this is kind of outrageous here and certainly unnecessary. Okay, we have to put some kind of corrosive, or not corrosive, what's that stuff called, penetrating oil on here to see if I can get this to come off. Because this is not wanting to come at all. Oh, there it goes. That's cool. So it went flying. A little metal ring. And hopefully now this will come off. And it's not. Okay. And unfortunately the screws for the motor aren't on the other side, so in order to get to the bearings, this really does need to come off. Uh-oh. Did that just happen now? The rear bearing is disintegrating. Ugh. Well, we could fix that with some hot glue. Alright, well, I stand corrected. This thing is not at all user-friendly for servicing. Well, I'm not sure how we're going to get this off of here. I'll have to do that off camera because it's taking too long. Okay, the blade has been removed. I was able to tap it out the rest of the way with a small pointing stick. So, the blade appears to have actually been glued onto the shaft, which is absolutely nutty because it is a slotted shaft, so it's not like it has any potential to spin on the shaft. But anyways, here's the stupid little motor that was in there, and unfortunately when I started banging it initially, I guess I was hitting it too hard and I broke the rear bearing holder. So now I can fix that. We'll just glue it. I'll just put hot glue in there instead and it'll work fine. In fact, I think it largely was just held in place by the, I don't know. Anyways, we'll fix that. So we can go ahead and take apart and service the motor now and clean the rest of the unit. And I think what I may do before I put this back together is I'm going to drill a hole in the center of this fan so that I can oil it without having to take it apart, because that was absolutely ridiculous and I'm not doing that every couple months. Okay. Okay, I stand corrected. I don't think this broke when I was banging it. I think this is just wasn't molded correctly because I was holding this in my hand here and it just literally just broke apart. So I think this was, and I've seen this happen before on these C-frame motors. They're just very poorly made and sometimes we get manufacturing defects like this. But anyways, we'll fix this. I'll try to fix it with hot glue and see what happens. Hopefully it's repairable. If not, these are pretty standard motors. I probably have another one somewhere. In fact, I'm looking at one right now. Here's a little fan that I made years ago out of a heater that's spoiled. And I believe that motor is pretty comparable to what's in here. So I'll try to fix this one. But if it doesn't work, I may try the other motor. Well, anyways, I guess I gotta get the glue out and start gluing. Okay, it's a few hours later. I had to take a break and do something else. But that's done, so now we can go back to this. And the glue is warming up. I'm not 100% certain that'll work because I don't know how hot this motor gets. You know, the back bearing shouldn't get that hot enough to melt the glue, I would think, but you never really know. So we'll have to just observe this for a while in operation and see what happens. But I'm going to try this. I've just cleaned everything as much as I care to anyways. It's not really all that dirty to begin with. Let's give me a good wipe down. And let's see if the glue thing is ready to begin gluing. Nope, it's not hot enough yet. Alright, so what I've done here is I have glued the bearing back together, so that's one piece now, or the bearing holder thing rather, and I've glued the bearing itself into place because the metal that was holding it into place was just deteriorating. Now, this is not the best way to fix it, and there is a possibility that the motor will get too hot and melt the glue. That potential exists. You don't need to blow up the comments box with that information. I'm aware of that. But this is not a part of the motor that gets particularly hot, and this is facing the back of the heater where it's drawing in the cold air. So I have my strong suspicions that it will be perfectly fine. So we're going to go with that. I'm going to oil the motor now. Here we go with this again. Oil for fans, not the other kind. It's not for fans. This is the kind that's for fans. Now I can't get it open. There we go. And now this is going to dry out sooner than it normally would because well, actually the wicking is still holding the front, and the other side it's still open to the shaft, but now it's closed off on this side, so it's not. I don't even really believe that stuff works anyways, so it probably doesn't matter. Okay, the oil is in. It's spinning very, very freely. Just put this on ever so slightly because I know if I put it on too much I won't get it off again. That spin down time is good. So now, put this away. Now what I want to do is drill a hole into the blade here, probably right around there, so that I can get oil onto the shaft without having to take the blade off. Alright, so now we have a hole there and a hole there, which should allow me to just put the zoom spout thing right through there and get to the shaft without having to pull this off the motor, because for whatever reason I don't think this will be coming off the shaft with any ease once I get it back on. Although what I will do is I want to clean all that glue out of there before I put it back on. Okay, it's time to put the fan blade back on. I'm going to put some oil on the shaft. In hopes to make this go on a little bit easier, though I think my hopes are kind of slim with this. And since I don't want this to break again, I'm going to put this down on the table and push directly on the shaft. Okay. And that went too far back because the blade is scraping on the motor now. Jeez, that is ridiculous. Alright, that looks like that's good. Alright, so let's begin the reassembling. I think this will be okay. It's not, ideal, but most things aren't, so this is what it is. This is spinning freely. Is it? Yeah, I think it's good enough. Alright, so now I'll reinstall this into the housing here. I don't know if all these heaters are like this or if this was just a effective scenario here, but either way, that was quite a fiasco. And now we're going to run into a small issue here because the glue is preventing this from sitting exactly into here the way it's supposed to. So I'm just going to have to screw this in and screw it in carefully so that it's completely level and doesn't scrape on the sides, because this actually is a very close Venturi thing. Now admittedly, I believe these two washers, did they go on here? Actually, never mind, I think they did go on here. So I thought maybe these go on the bearings, but I think they did actually go on here. The one on the bearings, oh well, I'm not holding this thing back apart just to put these washers in there. Not a chance. It's way more hassle than it's worth. Wow, that's a really tight fit towards the bottom. I mean, it's got... If that was to vibrate at all, that would be probably scrape against the sides. See if I can make that any better. Well, it's not perfect, but it should work. Give it one more test. This has a, I thought I broke the whole thing before I went to test it. It has a tip over switch in here, which is still active when the fan is just the fan mode is selected, which I thought was kind of odd. It's not the best, it's a little bit out of balance, but I think it'll be okay. So let's finish assembling here. Oh, actually, hold up. I gotta put this stupid thing back on here. This thing isn't so bad, it's the other thing that I'm not gonna even bother with. Although this, I think, is going to prove itself very difficult as well, because I don't have the right tool for it, and you know, if you don't have the right tool, everything just becomes 15 times more difficult than it should be. And that blade is so tight, it's not going to come off. Okay, all the screws are in place. Admittedly, I don't remember if that's where the washers went or if the washers went over there. At this point, this product's a disaster, so I don't really care. I don't think it'll make much of a difference. So, last thing that's left to do is to screw the guard onto the back of the fan here. And this thing just snaps in place. Actually, that's not really snapping in place. I don't know why that's like that. Perhaps it's just warped from the heat. This is another reason why I don't like plastic heaters. Yeah, that's, I guess, oh, there it goes. Okay, good. Okay, so this is now fully assembled. Whoops. Oh, jeez, the freak show just goes on and on. This was a lot more of a freak show than I thought it was going to be. And it sucked up pretty much my entire afternoon, but oh well. It's getting cold out, so I wanted to get this working. I think today was like today was the first day of the cold. 1991 this was made. I'm guessing that's the day code. Filter cleaned up nice. Actually, it's still in good condition. It's not deteriorating at all, so we'll definitely use that. I'm not going to put it on just yet because I want to observe the motor. Let's go ahead and give this a final test, and then I'm going to go get dinner. Okay, that's pulling 22 watts. And sounds a little scratchy. I'm not really sure why, but you can feel the air. It's working. We'll go into heat low, and we're at 720 watts, 1,000 watts, 1250 watts, 11,035, 1051, 1028, 1011, 986, 980, 976, 972, 967. This thing is throwing out a ton of heat. I like this one. Here. Okay, we're down to 952 watts. Yeah, admittedly that fan motor doesn't sound too good. That may have to get replaced. Or it could run like this one in 10 years, I don't know. I ain't gonna replace it until it quits. 946 watts. That's hot. That's putting out a lot of heat. Let's go up to high heat. 1697, 726, 1655. Wow, that's throwing a lot of watts. 1515, 1500, 1487, 1474, 1453. So it's definitely got quite the startup draw. 1433 watts, 1427, 1428, 1426. That is hot. I can't even keep my hand there. Wow. This is a good heater. And unlike a lot of these ceramic ones, I'm standing 2 or 3 feet back and I can still feel the wind moving. It actually moves a good amount of air. Now 1403 watts, so it's stabilizing and getting down to normal. And we're testing on 117 volts. I'm going to go back to fan mode because it's getting hot in here. I actually was pulling the volts down 3. We're back to 120 volts now. And the fan motor is not sounding good at all. So we'll have to run it for a little while and see what happens. I'm not using this in a noise sensitive area, so if it doesn't sound good, it doesn't sound good, but I want to make sure it's not going to break. And it's pretty much already cooled off, so we'll go ahead and cut this off. Let's take a look at the spin down here. Tip over switch is doing its job. It's spinning freely. I don't know why it sounds so bad. It's not good. You know what that sounds like? It sounds like the stator is scraping up against the rotor. Yeah, that's not good. Alright, that's not usable. Well, I guess we're going to have to get a new motor. Well, this is the first servicing fail I've had in a long time. Oh well, we'll have to do another part 2. Second thought, no part 2. We'll just do it all in part 1. This other motor that I had here, the bearings are not quite the same shape, but they're the same size, and I think they're going to work. So I'm going to use them. And then I'll get some other El Cheapo motor to put back into this fan, because although I never use it very often, it's kind of a cool little fan. Okay, the shaft is totally locked up here. Maybe we just have a severe alignment issue. Yep, we just had a severe alignment issue. Okay, I'm much happier with this fix because this is, you know, sturdier than what we were doing before. It's spinning real freely now. Alright, good. Well, I'm glad I had enough parts on hand to salvage this mess. Since I don't think anybody wants to watch me reassemble this for the second time, I'm going to cut here, and then we'll pick back up when it's all assembled. Okay, the new bearing is installed, and the performance of the fan is obviously much better than it was before. So that's good. Now, I think we're still going to run into the issue with it not fitting properly into this piece because the whole thing is a different shape now. But that wasn't an issue before. I don't think it'll be an issue now. Interesting how the screws are standard size with these motors, even though this motor is probably at least 20 years older than that motor. It's good to know, though. You can get parts for these pretty easily. Okay. Okay, I think the great freak show is finally coming to a close. Let's go ahead and test this again. Oh, that sounds a lot better. It actually has a little bit of a startup sound now. The spin down time is good. Yep, it's getting hot. It's working. Okay, well now it's working. Now that we have taken parts from elsewhere, so I'll have to get another bearing for this fan, but that's not of any priority. This was the priority project, and this is fixed, so that's good.